Shai Hills Resource Reserve is located in the Shai Osudoku district of the Greater Accra region. The reserve covers about 51 square kilometers made up of different species of animals, hills and ancient caves. The park has series of hills, as I said, and these hills are referred to as Inselbergs. Geographers say Inselbergs are mountains that have been largely worn out. The hills in the park have its highest peak rising to about 290 meters and are surrounded by savanna-covered plains at about 60 meters elevation. The Shai Hills Resource Reserve also serves as the home to various animal species such as baboons, green monkeys, spot-nosed monkeys, kops, bushbacks, and duikers. The reserve also has ostrich, different species of butterflies, reptiles, zebras, among others. For some of us who have never seen ancient trees like baobab before, the park is the best place to visit. Portia Selenu is the Public Relations Officer for the Forestry Division at the park. She tells us more about the reserve.
Madam Portia, yes, welcome to Ghanadistricts TV.
Thank you. Welcome to Shai Hills Resource Reserve.
Thank you. Please, can you brief us about Shai Hills Resource Reserve?
Okay, so Shai Hills Resource Reserve is one of the protected areas under the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission. Before it became a reserve, it used to be the home of the people of Shai Osudoku, and this place was declared a forest reserve in 1962, and presently it has a size of about 51 kilometers square. And whilst the people were expelled from the reserve, currently they are living in the fringe communities. When we talk about fringe communities, we are talking about the communities around the reserve. We talk about Manya, Kodiabe, Doyum, Dodowa, and then the other communities. At the moment, it serves as a tourist attraction site which receives between 20 to 30,000 visitors every year. When you come into the park, some of the activities you can get to do is the animal viewing, where you get to see some of the animals that we have here. You get to see the zebras, and then the ostrich, and then the baboons, and then the antelopes. There are other primate species here as well. We have the green monkeys and then the spot-nosed monkeys, some reptiles as well, and then different kinds of antelopes. We have the bushbacks, we have the duikers, and then we have the kops. Aside these animals that you get to see, we have a museum. At our museum, we have skins and body parts of some wild animals there. Sometimes when people come, they ask, do you have elephants? Do you have lions? They mention all kinds of animals you can't see here. But when you go to the museum, you can see some skins and body parts of some of the animals that you don't have here. So it gives the tourist a fair idea of what a particular animal they've heard of but haven't seen before looks like. And then we have the historical sites, or what we call the attraction sites, where we have the caves, we have the hills where you can go to do the mountain climbing. When you get to go there, so you are given a history of how the people who lived there, the activities they undertook. And then the interesting part of it is also getting to do the climbing. When you get on top of the hill, it gives you a very serene and nice view of what the park looks like.
Now that you know the history behind this park, join us as we journey through it with our tour guides, Ishmael and Portia. Ostriches are said to be the largest birds on earth, and this bird is found in the park. know that zebras come in different species with different scientific names? Let's learn more about zebras in the park.
These ones are called plain zebra. So in the scientific world, they are called Ekusquaga. And the zebra in the world, we have about 3 species. Aside the plain zebra, we have the Gravis zebra. They are purely black and white. And then the mountain zebra, more bigger than these ones. But then you could see some brown patchy colors in between the white colors, and it's not dirty. That is the species with the unique features. And mostly people ask the question that whether they are black skin with white stripes or white skin with black stripes. Scientifically, the zebra produces substance. Like all blacks, we produce melanin. So almost 70% of its body produces melanin. And in that way, melanin, it is only the black that produces melanin. So they are black skin with white stripes. They can actually live for 40 years, and they are herbivorous. So they feed on grass residues. We also supplement their food for them. Yeah, they are not in the wild as we used to, or we have ostriches and ostriches and antelopes. That is why these ones were imported from South Africa, and they are doing very well here.
As I indicated earlier, the park has different types of reptiles. One that might interest you to visit the place is the royal python. According to Ishmael, these pythons don't bite, has no venom, and only swallows its prey. The pythons, he added, are fed with mice on daily basis to keep them alive. It was now time to visit the various hills and caves in the park. These caves and hills are far apart that one cannot visit without means of transportation. Remember, the park is 51 square kilometers, as I indicated earlier. We continued our expedition to the Mugo Hills. History has it that young girls who were of age to go through puberty rite, that's the depot, were camped on the hills for months. Ishmael tells us more about this beautiful history of the Shai tribe.
We are now at Mugo Hills, where formerly the Shai ladies were brought for their depot rite. So Ishmael over here will brief us more about it. Ishmael.
Yeah, so this place that we are here is Mugo Hill. And in the olden days, young girls are camped here for 6 months training so that they can undergo through the depot rite and comes out as real ladies for marriage. So history has it all that the old ladies who have been able to lead a good life, they transfer their way of living to these young girls for 6 months on this particular area. They have a place where they used to sleep, and then also on the surface of the rock you can see some grooves over indentations where they mostly nobody knows what they were doing inside, but it was believed that they used to grind things that they put on themselves to remove bad scent and also to smoothen their skin for their life partners to choose them, as well as their food items were also grinded on the grooves.
The Mugo Hill at some point in time also served as training grounds of bodyguards for Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. This is some 65 years ago. Ishmael again tells us more.
When the Shai were sacked from here, this particular place was where our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, used in training his bodyguards. So there was a pillar where they flagged the flag of Ghana on top. And so they run as physical endurance tests before they can be accepted to follow or guard the president. Yeah, so as we descend, you see various areas that the young girls slept. And then also for now, it's tourist attractional sites where people come here to camp, can pitch your tent and camp. And then also people do abseiling. Abseiling is the opposite of rock climbing. So they descend through this path to the base of the hill with the rope between their tummy. And then also people also come here to relax, sit, or just sit for picnic aspects. Yeah. So Mugo Hill is open for everyone to come to see the nature or how the coastal savanna terrain looks like.
The hills had caves that served as homes to the people of Shai in the ancient days. Symbolically, every cave we saw in the park had baobab tree planted around them by these ancient settlers. The baobab provided them with adequate shade, kept the environment conducive and moist for these settlers. Beautiful and touching historical story there, yeah? This is just the tip of the iceberg. There are so many historical scenes you didn't know exist in Ghana or even perhaps the Greater Accra region. Let's continue the journey to the Scoo Cave. Yes, the cave is right here in the Greater Accra region. So, it is said that the Scoo Cave was once the home of the tribal chief of the Shai people. It also served as his palace and courtroom. I believe you want to know more about this cave. Our tour guide has this to say.
We are going to enter the Scoo Cave, which was once occupied by the tribal chief of the Shai, and it's believed that when they were sacked in 1892, they stayed at a town called Kodiabe, which is about 3 kilometers west side to the park. Yeah, so history has it all that the chief or the tribal king was living in the cave. So there were settlements around the cave, but then the chief was living in the cave. So the cave has 3 main chambers, of which the first chamber is where they arrange stones to pull on their enemies when their enemies want to invade them. And then the second chamber is the assembly ground, where the chief's seat is also occupied, together with where in the olden days they used to climb to the top. And then the third chamber was where the chief sleeps in the olden days, but now it is being inhibited with bat, that is the insect eating bat. So as we go through, you see them there. But then before one goes through or walk within the 200 meters of gentle terrain into the cave, in the olden days, one must put a leaf like this on the lip.
Okay.
So then when the leaf is on your lip, when the warriors see you at the main entrance, because the cave has one main entrance, and outside the main entrance there's no other place that one can pass through to the cave. So when they see you with the leaf on your lip, it signifies that you know their customs and traditions, and then also you are coming in with peace and right motive. And the most interesting part is that when you are going through, whatever you see, you will not go out to tell anyone. That is, you keep quiet without going out to see anything. So the leaf gives you the order to enter, but without the leaves you can never enter the cave in the olden days. When they were sacked in 1892, they stayed at Kodiabe, and once in every year each of the tribe that stayed here comes in to see where their forefathers lived and to pay homage to them. So the people at Kodiabe and Ayikuma also do that within August and September. Yes, that is the Manyim Festival.
After listening to this interesting narrative about the Scoo Cave, it was now time to visit the place to see for ourselves what Ishmael had earlier talked about. Finally, we made it to the entrance of the cave. It's about 200 meters from where our journey started. It is obvious we are not the first people to have visited this ancient cave. Others have done same, as inscriptions on rocks attest to that fact. I'm very sure you also want to try this someday. The cave is now home to bats in the park. Where we are now is the main chamber of the cave, which used to serve as the chief's palace as well as his courtroom. This was his sitting place, a carefully designed stool-like rock. Soon, it was time to leave the cave to other interesting scenes in the reserve. It was a busy day for the team as we toured the 51 square kilometers park in just a day. Our next stop was the Museum of Natural and Cultural Heritage at Shai Hills. So what do we do in the museum? Portia reveals the rationale behind its establishment.
Here's the Museum of Natural and Cultural Heritage at Shai Hills Resource Reserve. This was put together some 3 years ago, and here at the museum, the natural aspect talks about the animal species. I mentioned at the introductory stage that here you get to see some skins and body parts of some animals we have in the park, and then some animals we don't have in the park. And then the cultural aspects also talk about the archaeological findings at Shai Hills Reserve. So when we get to go inside, you get to see a wide range of artifacts, a wide range of body parts and skins of wildlife animals. So it's an interesting experience. So let's go and see what we have.
These are the preserved species of animals from the reserve and other similar reserves across the country. Portia also took us through some cultural exhibits in the museum. These include schnapps bottles, cooking pots, and ancient stones, among others. As you are now aware, the resource reserve is not only the home to various species of animals, but also the home of the ancient people of Shai. For now, one will say that reserve is well managed by professionally trained personnel from the forestry division, but not without its own challenges. Urbanization is said to be the major threat to the survival of the park. Prince Anane Eje is the park's manager.
Welcome to Shai Hills Resource Reserve, which is one of the protected areas managed by the Wildlife Division of the Forestry Commission of Ghana. It's basically have a size of 51 kilometers square, and it have various tourism facilities in here. Basically, this is a reserve, and it has its rules and regulations that governs how the place should be managed. And as a result of that, in spite of the numbers that we receive or people who visit the attraction, we set out the rules and regulations to them from the beginning of their tour. That is what you can do in the reserve and what you cannot do. And one of our rules is that you come in the reserve, you leave it as it was that you came and met. So what it means is that you don't throw anything in and you don't take anything out of the reserve. Leave it as how it was. And we'll make you understand that before you even start your tour. And our tour guides are trained in that direction to ensure that at least you can only throw things at where it has been designated within the reserves. So first, that is one thing that we do to ensure that we continue to keep the place as a forest reserve and as for it to also serve the purpose that it's supposed to serve. Because we also run the guided tours, people are not able to do whatever they like. That is as a result of the presence of our guides with them, so far as you remain in the so that also help us to protect it.
He highlighted on other challenges of the reserve.
We have a challenge of encroaching from estate developers. We have the challenge of poaching, people trying to enter the reserve to go and poach the animals or hunt the animals. We have a challenge of bushfire. That's annually, especially during the Harmattan season. Poachers intentionally set fire in to give them way to go, as well as Fulani herdsmen that are around to give way for new grasses to shoot up. We also have the issue, a challenge of the Fulani herdsmen or invasion of cattle, once a while, especially at the peak of the dry season. They try to come into their reserve, and then these are basically the challenges that we have as conservationists, as managers of the place.
How affordable it is for both local and foreign nationals to patronize the place.
And we try to make our rates as cheap as possible to encourage domestic, because COVID has taught us a lot of lessons. At first, we thought that we were depending on the foreigners that come. But when COVID came, we came to realize that we need to rather broaden our base domestically. So we've now channel our efforts of marketing and everything to domesticals to ensure that Ghanaians patronize their own product, because we have come to realize that something can happen and the foreigners cannot come to the country, and we will have to. And COVID is a typical example of it here. So very cheap at the moment. Our rates for Ghanaian adults is 25 cedis for the first 1 hour. Any additional hour you pay for 5 cedis per person. So what it means is that if you come and you spend 2 hours, you pay 30 cedis. If you spend 3 hours, you pay 35 cedis. That is for Ghanaian adults. For Ghanaian students, you pay for 13 cedis for 1 hour, 3 cedis for additional hour. So you spend 2 hours, you pay 16 cedis. And because we want to encourage people to understand conservation, we think that we should catch them young. So we parade children, we charge for 2 cedis for the whole day, all in an effort to encourage parents and people to bring in their children for them to understand conservation. And by so doing, we know that if the children understand it today, tomorrow they will be ambassadors of conservation. That's for present. That's our rates for Ghanaians.
The Shai Osudoku District Assembly at Dodowa was our final destination. It was time for a one-on-one interview with the District Chief Executive of the area, Mr. Fred Ofei, to find out how his office is working to improve the park to make it more attractive to tourists.
Game and wildlife in there, you will cry me better say because here now history be say hormone in there, the beer, Yanina Numina, the Etnai. It is one of the places I miss Beniju. Nansea government in street lights kakra. Akoma will be. So we see was in the bear honor bear fair. Now in my uncle for Babana boils up to money. Any the way we promote it, advertising it, send a bear and man for bear day. And bench bear and honorable Jurapo buy a best try any launching. Ecotourism book. Nti said through that and Bema ahokeka na basro kakra ni apeska bi ni esisi challenge ni de emwa bi abeka mwa na wo mo ho ntimini manager no ho no edin saso bebre kwa be fa so ebetumi ama ehono etumpom.
He believes the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Mr. Henry Quartey's decision to relocate the crafts village to Dodowa will help draw more tourists to the area.
The intention of the Greater Accra Regional Minister say we move the craft village at the Dodowa. You know, so the tourism potentials no be back in district no more. Na boost revenue NFA so no be man ko fast call game and wildlife for normal ko patronize na atwin nko for the aba your district no bebre nti yanso ya ready say crab village for no yeju o ma wa too yegu nyama so a the fiscal planner and the engineer no edi huduma ye ba be clear areas na wo mo ba betena no near start bibi edi ama aka in final stage with the landlords owners now about acquire land from them. You know, we move in and bring the crab village from Accra center to our district, and then say through that more people will come to our district to patronize some of these things for us.
Now, if you need a serene environment to spend the day or night out with friends, relations or loved ones, and also have good views on different animal species, hills and caves, then look no further than the Shai Hills Resource Reserve. You can also call 0247 241074 for more information. Until then, we say goodbye.